love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA. It is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families, and one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
It's 90.1 KPFT. Time to check in with the R&R Show.
You see, Tom is taking all these psychology classes because he's going to be a psychotherapist. The problem is when they ask him why he wanted to do it, it always gets back to just look up the name Ronnie Renfro.
It's that I've spent all of my adult life in broadcasting, the music business, show business, as we say. It's presented a number of questions for me over the years. Why?
Well,
did he do that? Why did she do that? Why is it like this? And so I'm searching for answers here.
I hear that a lot of people in the radio business, TV business, media, they're childlike and they live in their own little world.
Kinda.
I have been so lucky. I escaped all of that. My maturity level, of course, is in the stratosphere. We all know that. So that's about it for me, Tom. It's your turn.
So it's kind of like if you drill all the way through the earth, you're going to be on top of the earth on the other side.
I see.
By going to the stratosphere, that indicates that you've gone so far down that you're on top again.
I see. And now, ladies and gentlemen, back to music.
Enjoy the great decades of music, banter, and fun.
And nonsense.
Well, there is that. R&R, weekdays 1 to 3, here on KPFT.
Every day is radio glory.
Good morning. You're listening to Screen Reflections. This is your host, Michael Bergeron. And today we have a special guest, Milton Lawson, who will be introducing the movie Citizen Kane this weekend, this Sunday afternoon at the River Oaks Theater. Good morning, Milton.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You're introducing Citizen Kane on Sunday, and you're a good person to do that because you've written a graphic novel called Orson Welles' Warrior of the Worlds, correct?
It is me.
Okay. What is the legacy of Citizen Kane?
I think the legacy of Citizen Kane is that it is still a vital and active part of cinema. It was just a few years ago that one of the most powerful directors in Hollywood chose to do an entire feature film, Mank, about the debate over the authorship of Citizen Kane. So here we are, 70, 80 years later, and the minutiae and the mythology and the lore of the production itself continues to be a source of mystery and engagement. And the film itself continues to be regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. Every 10 years, the Sight and Sound poll comes out, and for the longest time, Kane took the top spot in that poll. In recent years, it's dropped down to number 2 or number 3, but it is still wildly regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. And Welles himself, usually in that same poll, usually gets the most points among directors. And that's a pretty fascinating result in and of itself, since so many of his films after Kane have a sort of compromised quality about them. So it's a rite of passage for anyone wanting to become a cinephile. You got to go see this film. And the thing that's really great about it to me is a lot of times if you've got checklists of the greatest films that you need to see, a lot of times some of them will be, especially some of the older ones, a bit of an adjustment, sometimes a little difficult to get through, and you can admire the artistry kind of from a distance, but that's not the case with Citizen Kane. If you sit and you watch Citizen Kane, you're immediately transported, you're immersed. It's sophisticated. It's got a lot of visual effects. It's got a great sense of humor. So it's a vital part of cinema, and I think it's going to continue to inspire new generations of directors year after year.
And it seems like Citizen Kane was just in the news in the last couple of days. There was an auction for a sled that was used in the movie. The sled was called Rosebud. There were multiple versions, but there's only a couple that are known to exist that were actually camera sleds. There were a couple that were made of balsa wood that were used for the burning sequence, but there's only a couple that are known to exist that were actually the picture sleds used in the actual scene in the middle of the film where we first see Rosebud. Joe Dante evidently owned that, and it sold for over $14 million. Any comments on that?
I just think it's another testament to how desperate some of us are to have a tactile connection to this revered treasure of cinema. And it reminds me of Welles's next film, The Magnificent Ambersons, which is still an ongoing project in a weird way. It was famously interfered with by the studio, and major sections of it were cut, and the original negative may have been lost, but there is currently a filmmaking crew searching the globe trying to find that lost footage. And it's directed by Joshua Grossberg, a documentary filmmaker, and he went to Brazil to try to locate reels of the film because there have been rumors throughout the years that some of it still exists. So this auction of the Kane prop and the ongoing search for Welles' second film just reminds me that, you know, there's still active interest in Welles and his films.
And if they were to find the complete Welles version of Magnificent Ambersons, that would probably be one of the greatest cinematic discoveries ever. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah, it sure would be. And folks are so invested in that possibility. There was even a independent animation filmmaker guy in recent years who tried to reconstruct all of the missing footage for Magnificent Ambersons using a sort of crude form, sort of expressionistic animation. So if it was actually found and it could be put back into the film, it could be, you know, some people have referred to it as cinema's holy grail.
And once again, Milton Lawson will be introducing Citizen Kane this Sunday. Is it 2:45 at the River Oaks Theater, Sunday afternoon?
Yep, that's it, 2:45 this Sunday.
And then you also, your graphic novel on Orson Welles, obviously a fictionalized version of Welles, Warrior of the Worlds. Where can people find that?
Well, the easiest way would be to just come to the screening on Sunday. I will be there, and I will have copies of the book available for sale. But if you can't make it to the screening, just go to OrsonWellesComic.com, and you can get a copy there.
And Milton, you are far more knowledgeable about comic book tropes than I am, and I know you've recently seen the Superman movie. Can you tell me about some of the characters? Because while I really enjoyed the film, one of the things I enjoyed was the fact that we didn't spend time with an origin story. We just went straight into this latest Superman adventure. There were some characters that I loved, but I was unfamiliar with. One of them was Mr. Terrific. Another one is Green Lantern. And then there's also a Hawk Woman. Can you talk about those characters?
Sure. One of the more popular iterations of adaptations of DC Comics in recent years was a cartoon series called Justice League Unlimited, in which a lot of the DC characters would go on adventures with Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, and it would raise their level of prominence. And some of those characters got some of their biggest exposure in that format. In this new Superman film, like you said, Mr. Terrific, he's a character that is basically shorthanded in the DC universe as potentially the smartest person in all of DC. And with Green Lantern, they took an interesting angle for it, because over the course of the decades of the Green Lantern book, there have been various different characters who inhabited the role of the Green Lantern. And they all have their own distinct personalities, and they have slightly different uniforms. And the one that James Gunn chose to include in Superman is this one Guy Gardner, who is largely regarded in the fan community as one of the less successful incarnations of Green Lantern, and he's mostly known for this just sort of odd, heavy-collared variant of the Green Lantern uniform. And what Gunn brilliantly did was he took the character's sort of annoying qualities and he pivoted it to an opportunity for humor. And in the new film, this particular Green Lantern is quite the comedic relief kind of character.
And what about the woman? What is her correct name? Hawk Woman?
This one, she's called Hawk Girl.
Hawk Girl.
And yes. She has been one of the more popular stand-ins in the Justice League comics and cartoons as opposed to Man. I'm afraid I don't know too much about her variations in origin story compared to Hawkman, but he has become the go-to Hawk character more frequently than Hawkman himself. So if you randomly pick up any comic from the last 10 or 15 years that's a Justice League comic, you'll probably encounter Hawk Girl more frequently than you will Hawkman.
Milton Lawson, thank you very much for joining us. And Milton is once again introducing Citizen Kane on Sunday at the River Oaks Theater at 2:45. You definitely want to join that. And right now we're going to listen to some music from Bernard Herrmann, music from Citizen Kane. Some more music from Bernard Herrmann. This is actually his theme from North by Northwest. Previously, we heard the introduction to Citizen Kane. Now we've got a archival clip of an interview with the Coen Brothers. For the film Fargo.
We got from the movie where he was in the movie. So we turned him on to the storyboard artist formerly known as J. Todd Anderson. They did an interview with.
So how much of what we see is fact-based? I mean, did the kidnapping really spiral into that many subsequent crimes, or how much is embellishment?
Well, in outline, I mean, what happened in the movie is what happened in fact. But again, I mean, as this gentleman sort of pointed out, I mean, we're not privy to any, we don't know who the characters were beyond the sort of bare bones outlines of what they did.
Yeah. So what was the extent of your knowledge of it? Newspaper articles?
Yeah, it was pretty rudimentary, to tell you the truth. We weren't that interested in making it, you know.
Yeah.
There were certain things that appealed to us about it.
If you had to write a mini review of this film, what kind of film would you call it? There's such a thing as in the press it mentions a Coen Brothers film, and I think that would be hard to define by any standards. How would you define your film? Or the kind of films you make, maybe be a better question.
How would we define it?
Yeah, how do you make your
Actually, one of the best lines I've heard in connection with the movie was in a review that I read yesterday that said it was in cold blood reimagined by Irma Bombach.
That's right, that in some sense people are taking this as a comedy. Personally, I've dealt with a lot of true crime stuff, bookend. And to me, this seems like probably a much more realistic story in some sense, because it's really about the banality of good and evil. And could you comment really on your sense of the realism underneath?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because and it gets back to what you were saying, too, about what interested us about the project, because, first of all, you're right. I mean, we didn't sort of set out, I wouldn't describe the movie exactly as a comedy. It wasn't our intention to make it comedy. Obviously, we thought there were sort of comedic elements, and there were things that we thought were humorous about various situations and behavior and that kind of thing. But that's different from saying you're making a comedy. And the sort of one of the driving forces behind this, the thing that was most interesting to us at bottom, really, was the reality aspect of it, and the fact that in the past everything we've done has been so sort of consciously, fictive, and made up, and that's the way we wanted it, and that's what we were after. That this was an interesting departure. It was a chance to go the opposite direction and make something that was much more stylistically, much more observational in tone, in terms of something that fit the subject matter. So, in addition to the other things that I said, you're really right that the main sort of drive, the thing that was most interesting to us about it was an opportunity to take a turn in terms of what we were doing and the kind of story we were telling and how we were telling it based on the fact that this was a real situation. It's funny that you used the phrase banality of good and evil, because we actually amused ourselves by talking about it as a story about the banality of good, the sort of flip side of the cliche banality of evil. I mean, it is interesting to us, these sort of incredibly heightened circumstances and these very bizarre goings-on, and the story is still populated by very sort of ordinary people. I mean, that juxtaposition is, they're not sort of Hollywood arch villains or superheroes. They're, trans characters. It's sort of ordinary indigent, and so is Bill Macy's. The juxtaposition of those sort of ordinary people with these extreme circumstances there, and it's interesting. And not only that, but not only Fred and Bill's characters, but basically in this case, and also in so many other cases that you read about, when you read about true crime stuff, you find that the people who are sort of organizing and planning these things are hopelessly muddled in really idiotic in the way they sort of go about things. There was this guy who was buried up near the Henry Hudson Highway, last year or 2 years ago, and the two guys who sort of asked for the money drop-off, and they said put it in a bag, and they were running over. They picked it up in their own car with their own license plates on it. They were running over. Cops sort of immediately knew who they. That's typical behavior as opposed to atypical behavior for these kinds of situations. So the sort of hopeless ineptitude of the sort of people who plan these things or sort of execute these things is a very sort of common element to these things, and it's horrible, but it's also funny that they can be so blind or stupid or whatever.
And it can also just be.
And we were listening to excerpts from a archival clip of the Coen Brothers talking about the movie Fargo. And let's listen to some music from another one of their films, Inside Llewyn Davis.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
1 second, please.
Please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't want to go. Don't show me in the outer space. Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't want to go. Don't show me in the outer space. I sweat when they stuff me in the pressure suits. Bubble, helmet, flashboard, and boots. Nowhere up there in gravity zero. I need to breathe, don't need to be a hero. And are you reading me loud and clear? Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't want to go. Don't show me out of space. Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't want to go. Don't show me out of space. I'm 6'2", and so perhaps you'll tell me how to fit into a 5-foot capsule. I won't be known as man of the century if I'm blubbering upon re-entry. Got a red-blooded wife with a healthy libido. You'll lose her vote if you make her a widow. And who will play catch out in the back with our kid? Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't wanna go. Don't show me out of the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, no.
Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy. I don't wanna go. Don't show me out of space. Please. Oh, please. Please. Oh, please. Please. Oh, please. Show me out of space. Oh, please. Oh, please. Oh, please. Show me out of space. Oh, please.
And thank you for listening to Screen Reflections. One more week of Screen Reflections on KPFT. Let's close out with some more Bernard Herrmann music. This is from The Day the Earth Stood Still. Join us again next week on KPFT for Screen Reflections.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this." Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Hamburger, porterhouse, filet mignon, rib roast, or even a New York strip. The other red meat might just be better. Watermelon. Watermelon Festival this Friday, July 18th and Saturday, July 19th at the Cottonwood, 3422 North Shepherd Drive. Get ready to party. Day 1, Pie Pushers, Lucky Monkeys, the Rasta Mendoza Trio, and Jambolism. The music begins around 5 p.m. and rocks on into the night. Then we do it again on Saturday with Wendy Elizabeth Jones, Helena Bucket, the Hightailers, and Pot Roast. Day 2 starts